In this video, we are going to talk about some of our quadrilaterals, remember four-sided shapes, and we're going to focus on specifically rhombuses, rectangles, and squares today. We're going to look at different properties of them, and that these are going to help us solve problems. The first one that we're going to look at is a rhombus. So a rhombus is actually a parallelogram, so meaning all four or opposite sides are parallel and opposite sides are congruent, but it also has all four sides that are congruent. So all four sides are congruent on a rhombus. They're all the same side. Now a rectangle is a parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel. Opposite sides are congruent. But it has four right angles. Or all of the interior angles are 90 degrees. A parallelogram with four right angles and four congruent sides is a square. So a square is basically you take a rhombus and a rectangle and put them together, all their properties, and you get a square. So all the interior angles are right angles, all four sides are the same. You can break that apart. If you just have the four right angles, you get the rectangle. Or if you just have the four congruent sides, we call that a rhombus. Now rhombuses, the diagonals in them are actually perpendicular. Or meaning that they cross at a 90-degree angle. So all rhombuses, those diagonals are going to cross at a 90-degree angle. The diagonals of a rhombus are also going to bisect the pairs of opposite angles. So as I draw the diagonals in here, they're actually going to bisect these angles. Remember, bisect means that it cuts it in half. So that means angle 1 here is the same as angle 2. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. It's going to cut this angle in half as well. So 3 and 4 are going to also be congruent. This goes along with 5 and 6 as well. So angle 5 is going to be congruent to angle 6. And lastly, 7 and 8 are also going to be congruent. So the diagonals of a rhombus actually do two things. They're going to be 90-degree angle. So this would be a 90-degree angle here. All of those would be 90-degree angle. And these angles are cut in half. So these two are the same, these two are the same, these two are the same. Now, a rectangle, the diagonals of a rectangle are going to be congruent or the same length. These necessarily aren't the same length in a rhombus, but in a rectangle, they're always going to be the same length. So let's look at some problems, or looking at identifying some shapes, and then we're going to do some solving with this. So the first part, we're asked to identify if it's a square, a rectangle, or a rhombus based on the information that we're given. So this has four right sides, or four congruent sides, sorry. That symbol tells us that all sides are the same. So it could be a rhombus, and let's write that down then. But we have to figure out if it's also a square, because a square would have four right angles. Well, this has 111 degrees, so that means that it's not 90 degrees. This is not going to be 90. None of those are going to be 90 degrees then. and so this is only going to be a rhombus. This one, I have a 90-degree angle here, 90-degree angle here, 90-degree angle here, but we said a rectangle has to have 4 90-degree angles. Well, if these three are 90 degrees, then this has to be a 90 degree as well, because they have to add up to 360 degrees, and that's the only thing that's going to fit there. So we have 4 right angles, so that tells us rectangle, but we don't know about the sides, and there's no symbols there to tell us about the size, so we can't necessarily determine if it is a square or not, because we don't have that information. And then this last one right here, well, I can look and I can see that this angle is a 90-degree angle, this angle is 90 degrees, this angle is 90 degrees. So that means this angle is going to be 90 degrees as well, just like last time. So we can say this is a rectangle. And then if this side's the same as this side, that means this side is also going to be the same because of those 90-degree angles. So it's actually also a rhombus. And because it's a rhombus and a rectangle, it's going to be a square. So if it's both a rectangle and a rhombus, then we can call it a square as well. So that actually gets to be all 3 of those. So now let's look at some problems where in this one we're dealing with a rhombus and we want to find these missing angles. So the first thing that we can do is, well, these angles should be the same because we did say our definition, this is a parallelogram. So that means opposite angles are going to be the same. So angle 3, the measure of angle 3, is going to be also 113 degrees. Now we just have to figure out the measure of angle 2 and 4. Right, like this. We got to find those out now. So I don't know what this angle is, but we can figure it out because we said opposite angles are the same. So we know that this is 113, and so that's 113. So those 2 angles are 226 altogether. It's a quadrilateral, so that means the interior angles are 360. So if we subtract that 226, I know that these 2 angles right here have to add up to 134. But it's a parallelogram as well as a rhombus, so that means these 2 are going to be the same. So I can divide this by 2, and that gets me 67. This is going to be 67 altogether, and 2 and 4 are 67. Well, this diagonal is going to bisect that angle, so then we divide this again by 2, and that tells us both angle 2 and 4 are going to be 33.5 degrees. The last one, we're asked to find x and y. So I see this one's 2x minus 7, so that should be the same as 3x or 3y minus 9, but I can't compare an x and a y. So we're going to have to wait on that, I'm thinking. And I think we have to figure out what y is first, and then we can figure out what this is. We'll actually evaluate and figure out this side, and then we can solve for this. So these 2 sides are the same. So if they're the same or congruent, that means they're equal. So we do y minus 1 equals 2y minus 5. I'm going to get my y's all together. I'm going to subtract this y because I like to move the smaller y most of the time. These cancel out. That leaves me with negative 1 equals 2y minus y, which is just 1y or y, minus 5. Going to add 5 to both sides. This goes away. I'm going to switch it. Y equals negative 1 plus 5, or 4. So there's our first part. Y is 4. Now, if I know y is 4, I can actually find the length of this side. to figure out what this is. So let's plug in 4. 3 times 4 minus 9. 3 times 4 is 12 minus 9, which is 3. So this side is 3. So that means this 2x minus 7 also has to equal 3. So 2x minus 7 equals 3. And then we solve for x. Add 7 to both sides. 2x equals 3x plus 7 is 10. Divide both sides by 2. X is equal to 5. And we are done.